I'm Teresa Garcia, also known as Amehana Ishtari or Amehana Arashi, and I'm here today because I would like to start catching up on the book reviews that I've kind of fallen a little bit behind on. Today I would actually like to talk about 3 different books because they are from the same series. This is the sci-fi fantasy author, oh actually no, this is the Fantasy Award winning author, Tanith Lee, who wrote The Black Unicorn. Now, I first was introduced to this book as a young girl. I must have been, I don't know, somewhere between 9 and 12. I read a lot back then, so I don't always have an accurate memory of exactly what year I found different books. But this one stuck with me all through my teen years, through my adult years, and in the last few years I managed to get another copy in my hands of this book. As you can see, it's a little bit used, but that's okay, because I wanted to reread it and read it again for the Trotzdale Library program. This book follows the story of Tanith Lee, an unknowing sorceress. She is the daughter of a sorceress named Jave, who lives out in the desert. And her mother doesn't pay a great deal of attention to her because she is always wrapped up in her work as a sorceress, doing what Tanith Lee sees as frivolous things. The side effects of magic have some interesting effects around the castle, such as, you know, strange things coming out of her shower, so that she has to, you know, hope and pray that she actually gets water that day. There are these animals that are called peeves.
And when I read Peeve, I speak like this because I want him to be annoying, because he is, but he's cute.
So, peeves around most of the place don't talk, but of course around her, you know, her area, they do. She gets befriended, or she befriends a peeve. Kind of not sure which way it really goes, when a peeve comes into her life with a bone, which is a crystal bone. And after getting the peeve acclimatized to her and following her, she finds out there are indeed more of these crystal bones, and so together they collect them and discover they belong to a unicorn. She, of course, puts the skeleton back together, and what parts are missing she makes, because that's what she does. She repairs things. That's her gift. And then, after a bit of an accident, the unicorn comes to life. And the 3 of them wind up going on an adventure all the way across the desert, all the way to Sea City, which, as the name implies, is on, you know, on the sea. The unicorn is known as the sacred beast, and it is important all throughout the realm. We find out in the later books it's not just her realm, but, you know, other kingdoms too. And we find out that the sacred beast had been wronged a long time ago before its death, and that it isn't even from our world. And Tanith Lee has a very special connection to the unicorn because of what had been done as a wrong to this unicorn, so it is up to her to make things right. Through the course of all this, she discovers that she really is a sorceress. And so it's a coming-of-age story because it is about her coming into herself and overcoming the hurdles that bring one from, you know, adolescence into adulthood. This, of course, is a long-spanning quest. It takes more than this little book right here. we find out where the unicorn was from, and this sets us up for the next books because we find out about other worlds. And I really like how Ms. Lee uses the other worlds and connects them together, because in this one we find out about a perfect world and experience it with Tanith Lee for a brief, beautiful moment. And then, you know, we come back to our world and, you know, we have the wrap up and all that lovely stuff. Which then sets us up for the gold unicorn. Currently, I'm about halfway through this book with the Trottsdale Library's reading program. And this is not my first time reading the book, obviously. But I was so happy when I did find out that it wasn't just one book, but it was a trilogy, that I immediately went and looked for used books for the rest of the trilogy. Excuse me. It's winter. This book, she has fully come into accepting herself as a sorceress, although she's still not all that sure about it. Everybody else around her accepts her as a sorceress, although she often still tries to hide it because it's just easier that way. We pick up with her being with some friends of hers that she's made in her wanderings to see the beauty of this world. And they are visiting a wizard called Warabex. Tanith Lee isn't even sure why she agreed to go and visit Warabex, because she expects him to be rather like her mother and to get on her nerves, as many mothers do for their adolescent and young adult children. I love you, Mom, but, you know, I'm sure that I probably got on your nerves at times as much as you got on mine. Anyway, so Gold Unicorn, she's visiting Warabex. We discover that he's been working on something for the war effort that's been going on. These little mousps. Oh my god, these mousps, they sound so adorable. They're a combination of mice and wasps. And the sting is in their tail. They smack you with their tail and you get the venom poison. And it is just hilarious. And we find them later on in the book. So she goes through this book still trying to see the rest of the world. She's working on her way back to her mom because she's heard about this war going on, and she's worried about her mom, so she's trying to find out if Jade is okay. Hello, Athena.
Hey, what are you doing?
I was doing some book reviews for YouTube. Give me a moment and I'll pause.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. Sorry about that. My daughter thought I was talking to my mom directly and thought she was in trouble. She's not. Anyway, getting back to the book. In this book, she goes through and discovers that her sister is the crazy attacking empress. Her sister from Sea City through her father. And she gets captured by a gang called the Locusts. Now, bugs actually feature quite a bit in this particular book, which I found quite interesting. And when she is captured, she gets taken to her sister. Her sister, for some reason, thinks that she would recognize her name when she'd only given the pet name instead of the full name. Because, you know, sister lived out in the middle of the desert, so she didn't keep up with, you know, who was who, right? I identify with this.
Now I have something to say.
Okay, just a moment, kiddo. Let's try this one more time. So she finds out her sister is the crazy queen, crazy empress, right? And we're talking pretty crazy here because good old sis has had constructed based on what she had experienced and what Tanith Lee had told her of the black unicorn, a gold unicorn. Oh boy, we got us a unicorn in the war effort. Oh, but it doesn't work. And there's been some unlucky feelings around it if you walk underneath it. Good old sis wants Tanith Lee to use her sorceress fixing powers to fix the unicorn and make it work. Now, the reasons that her sister gives for wanting to take over all the different kingdoms, she's got this beautiful utopian vision in her mind, but it just doesn't jive with, you know, people having freedom. So that actually is pretty applicable to a lot of the stuff that's going on today. I'm talking about you guys up there in Oregon. There are better ways to do it, dudes. Come on. We've been fighting for the state of Jefferson for ages, and, you know, look where we are. We're still not there yet. Fighting is not going to cut it. Don't do it. Okay, sorry about that tangent. That just kind of has been bothering me. Where was... Oh, yes. The war. So, Tanith Lee has to fix the unicorn, which she does. Not willingly. The unicorn kind of makes her. There's something about her gift that she has to fix. She cannot refuse to fix something if it is brought to her. She just can't. So it's like magic is like a double-edged sword in this world, which I find really well done. There are so many books about magic being all fluffy and not really having much of a cost to it. But there are some definite bindings if you have magic gifts. So the unicorn gets fixed. And it does successfully work, but we got some disappearances happening now. And the disappearances are really important because nobody can figure out where all these people are going. They think that they're just deserting and so get a bad rap. But they're not. They just disappear because they've done something terribly unlucky. Go under the unicorn. The arch in all of these books is really important. In the first book, the gateway to another world was an arch by the sea. It was almost exactly like the arch where the bones had been found. There are keys to these arches, of course. I really like how the shell keys work. You've got one for, operating both sides of the different arches. I really wish that Tanith Lee actually got home and got to use the arch where the unicorn was found in the first place. But that's a whole other story. So, eventually we find out where the people are going, and they've been going to a world very like the one that Tanith Lee is from, but worse. And it's a world dedicated to war. So, again, this book is really, really pertinent to a lot of the things going on in our world now because of all the wars and the skirmishes and the rebellions and all the other things that are happening in our world. They're touched on in this and then magnified. And not magnified in an overpowering way, but a way that is rather believable and reminds me in some ways of Yomi from Japanese mythology and different versions of hell in other mythologies, where war is just an everyday thing. That's what you do. You know, you get up, you go fight somebody, you get killed, and then you respawn, you know, the next day, and you do it all again. And the king is crazy and mirrors Varium, Tanith Lee's sister, in a very astounding way. It's like male and female, which you would expect, of war. And she even gets offered an opportunity to become the Queen of War, the Empress of War, the Empress of this world that is based on war. And she makes him think that she's going to accept it in order for everybody to be able to go home. But everybody thinks that she's sold them out. So there's a bit of drama in there with that, and there's some love triangles going on, which you would kind of expect in, you know, a fantasy story. Both girls are still working out their transfer from their youth into their adulthood, and they're taking slightly different paths about it, because Varium has to do it within the frame of being a prince, because, you know, being the ruler, and female is not allowed. All the rulers in the past have been princes and kings. And so she gets crowned as a prince, which was hilarious. I love that part. Not so sure I'd want to wear the dress, though. You'd have to read to find out about the dress, because that's just, oh my god, poor thing. Eventually, everybody does get back to their world after quite a few trials. A bunch of different tests, and they do have to rely a bit on some supernatural guidance. And the peeve is still the peeve. But everybody does get back, and there are lessons learned. And I really like the last chapter in this book, so I'll read it to you before I go on about the red unicorn. But here we are for chapter 19. Going home. Home to her mother's fortress in the desert. A long journey still, and plenty to think about. Yet Tanith Lee rode in a daze. The canny camel took care of her. It had even greeted her in the camp with a kind of welcoming noise, an old friend. She was glad of it, and the peeve, which every new day went quite mad, reveling in the world. The mouse still puzzled her. Her mother would doubtless find it interesting. Mostly, though, she thought. She thought of Hans, despite what she had declared. She remembered everything he had said and done. It was all she had of him. She had lost the rest. She did not think of his future wedding to Lizra. When she thought of Lizra, she did so carefully, separately. They had parted warmly, a false, showy warmth with one awkward hug, like the last time. Goodbye. She had lost Lizra, too, for if her sister was to be Hans's wife, then they could never meet again. And Lizra had given her a necklace of emeralds, green for youth. Tanith Lee had never grasped that it could be possible to hate a necklace. And then she thought she could give the emeralds to her mother, Jave, who would look marvelous in them, and everything was all right. She had never felt such sadness, yet the sharpest pain had died away as the days went past. The sadness became almost restful. It was so known. And she began to consider, too, her mother. For what would Jave be like? How would she act? What had happened to Jave since Tanith Lee left? 6 weeks after she had gone from the camp, up in some fragrant green hills where cedars grew, they stopped for the night beside a stream. And Tanith Lee spent a whole hour gazing at this stream, as now she often spent hours gazing at green leaves on blue sky, or birds flying. She had gained something after all. The perfect world had made her see the worth of this one. Now she truly beheld this one's loveliness, its goodness. The mouse, when she came from the stream to make her fire, had disappeared. This happened occasionally. It always came back. She had assumed it went to gather food of some sort, but had never discovered, beyond cheese which she fed it, what it liked. Meow. The camel was browsing on the cedars, for it was always experimenting. The peeve was chasing rabbits, never catching them, with wild squawks. Tanith Lee laid the first stick, and a shadow fell across the ground. She jumped up in alarm. A man stood there. He was in middle age, but tall and well built, with a cloud of gray and black hair and a strong face. 2 dark eyes looked at her in a way she found annoying. "Good evening, Tanith Lee," he said. "You won't remember me. Warbex, the magician." Tanith Lee dropped her firewood, more in irritation than surprise. "I thought you wouldn't change yourself." "I can do anything I like," he said arrogantly. "I said to make myself young would be a mistake, but I can present myself with a commanding appearance as well as in the rather short, bald version I should save for visitors." Tanith Lee said, "What do you want?" "A little courtesy, perhaps. You're the rude one, appearing from nowhere." "That's not exactly a fact. You saw me only this evening." "What a lie!" Warbeck smiled insufferably. "I told you you had lessons to learn, and you have done extremely well. A talented pupil." Tanith Lee was furious. She said, "I'm afraid I must ask you to leave." "The night is so wide," he said. "Can't I share a piece of it? I see you still fear my advances. Did it never occur to you that I was interested in you in a, shall I say, fatherly way?" "No." "I must be frank, then. We've been friends for ages. You've even petted me. It was very nice. My fur took on quite a gloss." "What are you?" Tanith Lee went Tanith Lee went hot and then cold. She said in a voice of stone, "A mouse without a sting. A shape changer. It was you." "Indeed, and thanks to you and that helpful mercenary Spedbo, I have done what few of my peers have ever dared, entering and seeing another world. My gratitude, dear Tanith Lee, is overflowing." "Go away," she said. "I have other plans. I'm traveling with you. You will find I'm useful. You'll pretend I'm your father." "I will not." "And then that way I shall get to meet your mother, whom I have heard of, and whom I admit intrigues me very much. There, you see, I'm actually more interested in a lady of my own age." The peeve appeared on a nearby hill. Now it was actually playing with a rabbit. The rabbit was chasing the peeve. "I don't want your company," said Tanith Lee. "And my mother, I disapprove of your intentions toward her. I mean, you'll make her worse." Warbex laughed, throwing back his head. He looked impressive. Jave might like him. And he would bring out all her qualities of mystic craziness. The peeve hurtled down the hill, the rabbit in pursuit. The peeve was crying, "Good! Good!" under the cedars. The camel sidestepped to let them by. "Then you refuse my company," said Warbex. "I'm afraid so. A harsh daughter. Have you ever been kind to your mother at all?" Tanith Lee bristled and the peeve surged by. Then Warbex was gone. Something tiny darted like a glint of the fallen sun. A golden flea. The peeve sat, and the rabbit stalked at a long, grassy skid, backed away, watching. The peeve scratched.
"Itch,"
it explained, and after a moment,
"Flea."
Tanith Lee stood on the honey-green hill. Something in her was awake again. She cursed. She knew. Even if the peeve found the flea, it would be the wrong one. And that's how she ends that book, setting us up for the next book, which is just as amusing. And I'll have to talk about that in just a moment. All right. Now, hopefully my voice will hold out for this. This is the last book in her unicorn series, The Red Unicorn. Now, we've gone and seen a perfect world and a worse world. This one is kind of in between. We pick up at home. Tanith has made it home. And unfortunately, Warbex has followed her and things are going exactly as she was afraid of. Exactly. I'd be afraid too if, you know, Jave was my mom. Unfortunately, I kind of see bits of myself in Jave. All the characters are very interesting because the way they're set up, you can see a bit of yourself in each character, or at least I can. I'm not sure whether that was intentional or not, but if it was intentional, it was extremely well done, because I can see myself, you know, a bit of Warbex in me too, which is absolutely downright terrifying. Anyway, so the story picks up at home with Jave and Warbex and Tanith and the Peeve. And the two sorcerers are trying to bring back the water to the desert, because at one time the desert had been a sea. And there's all this water underground just waiting to be brought to the surface. What they're wanting to do is make a beautiful garden for themselves, because they just really want a garden, which is kind of odd for, you know, a couple sorcerers to have all this power and all they want is this magic garden. Okay, maybe it's not so odd because it's a magic garden. All the servants have been sent away, so Tanith has no friends left there. The captain of the guard that had been in love with Jave for years, that Tanith had been really close to, kind of like a father figure, ends up leaving because he can't bear to see, you know, Jave and Warbex together. She fixes his heart, okay? Actually, you know, puts her hand on his shoulder and, you know, closes her eyes and thinks and feels around and repairs his heart. She fixes a broken heart. That is so amazing. I wish it worked like that. Oh my goodness. Now, also, they do eventually manage to bring the water up to the surface, but it goes wrong. It goes horribly, horribly, terribly wrong. So wrong you can't really, you know, encapsulate it. You have to read it. And so she ends up going into a coma. The Peeve, being her familiar, goes with her, lays down on her chest, and he astral projects to where she's gone, in a world inside herself. Okay? So we've gone to worlds outside to the worlds inside. Psychologically mind-blowing. And inside this inner world, she has to fix her own heart. She has to deal with the heartbreak of having fallen for Hanj, but Hanj marrying her sister as had originally been intended for them. Because when they had met, he had been engaged to her. In this inner world, Tanith, I think it was spelled almost exactly the same as Tanith's name. Or is it Tanith? Or anyway. It sounds almost exactly the same. It's spelled almost exactly the same. Because that character is a negative image of herself in this world. And she is plotting with that world's version of Hanj to kill her sister so they can get married and so that she can take over and rule the land, which is a pretty cool land. Now, there is a red unicorn knocking around that she accidentally summons Tanith Lee. Red to correlate with her heart is what I'm guessing was meant. And she doesn't get back until she has come to grips with all these things that she's refusing to let herself know about. With the help of the Peeve, he helps her get home, of course, you know, and the red unicorn. The red unicorn is, you know, the keeper of the gateway. And they get home. And I was just, if you like psychology, this book right here takes psychology, puts it in this, puts the classic journey capsule into a fantasy setting to make it a bit more accessible. A definite must read. If you know, got some heart hurts, this book might help. If you just like, you know, an adventure, this book might help. If you like unicorns, this book will help. So, yeah, if you can, get copies of these, you know. Tanith Lee, you want the black unicorn, the gold unicorn, and the red unicorn. Color progression. Really interesting, the colors that she picked to do these, because the black unicorn comes from a perfect world. In the perfect world, he was still a black unicorn. You know, he wasn't white like all the depictions. I mean, Sea City depicted the unicorn as white, but he wasn't white. So it kind of plays a bit with the stereotype of the unicorn. And also, you know, alludes a bit to the unicorn's ability to go between two particular realms. Because, you know, to me, black is a void color, is a space color. You know, unicorn that's black could go anywhere, right? Well, unicorns in general can go anywhere. They're magic creatures, right? But anyway, that's the color symbolism to me. Gold. Trying to gain perfection, because gold is so perfect. And then red for love, red for the heart. Look at that. Can you see that? That's well done art. I like that. So, that's my review of Tanith Lee's Unicorn series. If you're interested, go out and get them. Thank you for watching. This is a longer review video than normal. I'm trying to catch up, and I do have to catch up on meditations and short stories and getting those uploaded. Thank you to my subscribers. Thank you to my viewers. Thank you to my supporters for my Patreon. You guys make it possible for me to do the little poems every month and help pay for the stories and things. And I really appreciate getting a little bit of a return for the time that I put into these things. Another thing before I go, I would like to show off this shirt from QWERTY. I've had this for a while. It's QWERTY. If you look down there, I will give the spelling. If you like shirts, you might want to check that site out, because they've got all kinds of shirts. They're limited edition shirts. You know, once they're sold, they're sold. You can vote to bring them back. You can vote for designs that are submitted by other people just like you. You can submit t-shirt designs, and if it's chosen and sold, you get a decent cut. It's a really nice site. I really enjoy it. So if you like shirts, if you like crossovers, if you like, you know, fan-made shirts, If you like, you know, things like coffee powers, random stuff like that, check them out. Shirts change every day. So, you know, you've got your daily tees, then you've got your last chance tees, and then you've got your t-shirt shop. And there's another thing that is in the works that I've heard about that I think everybody will really, really like. It is not up yet to the best of my knowledge. I'll have to look again because it's been a bit since I've gotten a chance to peek. But keep an eye on that site because content changes daily. Okay. Thank you for watching. Please feel free to like, subscribe, share, you know, check out my Patreon. Check out my books. You know, I've written, you know, Selkie Skins. I've written Dragon Shaman. Those two series are still going. I'm still working on, you know, the continuation books for those. They will tie in with another book series that is not ready yet called The Shadow Chronicles. These will all tie together eventually. You can be watching for the web novel version of Selkie Skins. For, you know, the updates, the web novel will probably be a little bit different from the version that hits print and ebook and audiobook, because it allows me to get a little bit of feedback from readers as I'm working. So there will be things added or taken out or moved around eventually. And that's all I can really think of. Thanks, guys, and I will see you again later. Okay, maybe that wasn't quite all, because as I was getting ready to save, I did remember something that I forgot to say. If you were an author and you would like me to review your book, please feel free to comment to me, and you can either mail me a hard copy or you can send me an e-copy. I will read and review it. I can't say how fast I'll get to it, but if you are an author or another publishing company and would like a non-biased review, I'm game. If you'd like to send me a gift, all you gotta do is comment and ask for my address. You can look on the publishing website for THG StarDragon Publishing, and it is there. You can send it to my publishing mailbox.